Coming to you from the studios of WTAP Plus, it's Mental Health Mondays with Andrew Knoll.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for another Mental Health Monday. I'm your host, Andrew Knoll. In today's episode on Mental Health Mondays, we're going to be talking a little bit about New Year's resolutions as we're a few weeks into the new year. Joining me today to talk about New Year's resolutions and how it can affect your mental health is Rachel Scheiding with Westbrook Health Services. Rachel, thanks so much for joining us again here in studio.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So obviously New Year's resolutions, it's a thing that everyone does pretty much every year. Have you made any this year?
I actually have not. I typically don't make any New Year's resolutions. But I sort of have ongoing goals that I work towards all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I said in the beginning, everyone almost makes them. I typically do every year. This year, I did not, though, as well, because I think it's something, and we're going to get into our topic of conversation here a little bit, New Year's resolutions and our mental health. Sometimes it can be something that you make that goal, something that you want to achieve, but it may not be attainable, and it can weigh a lot on you. Sure. So that's something that we want to talk about today. Can you just tell us a little bit about, people that maybe you've seen in the past? How do New Year's resolutions make people kind of feel emotionally, and do they bring hope or do they bring pressure to people in their everyday lives trying to complete these things?
Sure. So New Year's resolutions, a lot of times people tend to make them sort of big. So they'll say, I want to lose 100 pounds, or I want to be happy this year, or I want to achieve a degree or something like that. They might go with something that's very large and difficult to achieve in the time frame. And then as they start working towards that goal and find that maybe it's more difficult than they thought, or it takes more steps, or it's going to take a lot more time, then people start to lose momentum and motivation. They start to feel discouraged. This isn't something that I can achieve in the way that I thought or in the time frame that I thought, and it can be tempting to give up on those goals, unfortunately. So I don't think that making New Year's resolutions is a bad thing by any means, but we have to be very careful about making sure that they are achievable, that they are concrete and measurable, and that they're things that we actually care about and are relevant to us, and not just because we think we should drink more water or our doctor said we need to quit smoking, right? It has to be something that the person really cares about for themselves.
And so you talk about, goals, things that we can achieve. There are times that they probably make too big of a goal or something. Right. It's right at the beginning of the year. You want to get off to that fresh start, new year, new beginnings, new me, all those kinds of sayings. But can trying to achieve such a big goal at the beginning of a year actually make us feel, more stressed and more anxious?
Yeah, it can put a lot of pressure on it, especially if you've set up something like, I'm going to go to the gym every day. Well, going to the gym every day is a good goal, but what happens when you have to miss a day because you're sick, or you're too tired, or you got held over at work, or your kid needed something and you couldn't go?
Doctor's appointment,
Something is going to throw you off your course, right? Because that's life. So if you miss a day towards that goal that you set, then it feels like all is lost. I might as well throw in the towel because I didn't hit my everyday goal, and so why try at all? And so that's where making something that's achievable. I'm going to go to the gym twice a week would be maybe a good thing for a beginner who doesn't go to the gym at all currently, right? Instead of saying I'm going to go every day and work out 2 hours a day or something like that, and then when we inevitably can't do that. Or if you're not a person who drinks a lot of water and you say I'm going to drink 100 ounces a day, that's probably not achievable.
That's a lot, yeah.
For someone who's not used to that. But if you say I'm going to try to drink, 3 8-ounce servings of water a day, and then I'll build on that. So you want to make sure that they're reasonable and achievable for where you are in life. Now, your end goal may be I want to drink 100 ounces of water a day, and that's great. Or your end goal may be I'm going to go to the gym every day. But if you start with that as your goal, you're not going to be able to get there immediately, and it's going to feel really discouraging.
Right, and setting those simple goals and easier, more attainable goals, I think are great bits of advice that you're giving people and tips here. Now, it's something that I also want to ask too. We're talking about those small wins. That leads me into my next question. How can we celebrate small wins and be kinder to ourselves if we don't meet, that resolution that you talked about, the achievable bigger goal, going to the gym every day, drinking 100 ounces of water? How can, like you said, 8 ounces, 8 ounces, going to the gym twice a week? How can we celebrate those wins and, be kinder to ourselves when we do reach those goals?
Right. I think it's really important to look at where you started from, right? So even if, my goal is to go to the gym every day and I go once in a month.
Right.
That's one more time than I went the month before when I didn't go at all.
Absolutely.
That's pretty awesome, right? So you have to keep it in perspective of where did I start from versus where I am now. It also is helpful if you set up a self-reward system. Like I always feel like with kids, we give them gold stars and, rewards charts and attaboys and, you get the sticker on your test. And then we grow up and we feel like adults shouldn't need those things. Well, yeah, adults want those things too, right? So setting up reward systems for yourself, whether it's like a habit tracker app that gives you, little emojis and celebrations, or whether it's actually doing the gold star sticker chart. And then at the end, you get to, buy yourself a new pair of shoes, or you get to, whatever kind of reward is meaningful to you. But I think it's important that we still reward ourselves for good work and progress, just like we did when we were kids.
Absolutely. Rewarding yourself for good progress is always a major thing. Positive reinforcement is one of the things that I learned back in the day in college in a psychology class. And that's one of the things that from that class always stuck to me. Doing something when you do something right, make sure to reward yourself just a little, even if it's a little something, just to let your body know, your brain know that what you did was a good thing on that day.
Right. And then when you don't hit the mark, try not to be too hard on yourself about it, right? Maybe I am feeling under the weather today and I didn't hit my goal of whatever it was, or I forgot about it and I just didn't do it. Every day is a new day to start again. And it doesn't mean that all is lost or whatever progress you made up to that point doesn't matter, right? It just means, that day was difficult and you didn't hit the goal and you can try it again tomorrow.
Absolutely. And so I want to get your advice on this too. Obviously, people out there listening right now, some of them probably did make New Year's resolutions, unlike us. But for those people that are maybe struggling with their New Year's resolutions right now, what would be your advice to, keep them going and to keep pushing to attain that goal that they're trying to reach?
So if you're feeling like you're not making progress towards your goal, then I would say evaluate how big it is. And the one way to do that is to write it down and then write down, if I wanted to reach this goal, what is my very first little step? And after that step, what is the next little step? And after that one, what's the next one? And that original goal might have 5, 10, 20 steps to it, right? And then once you've broken it down that way, then you can see, have I hit any of these steps? And if I have, then I am making progress, even though I didn't originally feel like it. And if I haven't, well, now I have something more achievable and small that I can work on.
All right, that is some great advice. Now I want to change the topic a little bit here. We're still, it's in the new year, New Year's resolutions. One of the things which I'm going to get to later in the episode here is dry January that a lot of people get involved with, which is, abstaining from alcohol for the month of January, trying that. And it's usually good for your mental health and has some benefits. But I want to talk about just alcohol in general, because obviously New Year, that might be something that's on their New Year's resolution list, which is to, take back the amount that they're taking in of alcohol, because obviously, as we all know, alcohol isn't always the best thing for us. I do like to drink my beers here and there, have some liquor as well here and there, but overconsumption, never really a good thing. So I want to turn it to, what does alcohol change our brain chemistry and how does it, affect our moods?
So alcohol has different effects. Some are short-term and some are long-term, right? So the short-term ones are the ones that you're going to get when you're in the act of drinking or getting intoxicated. And you're going to notice that it's affecting your frontal lobe. So that's where your inhibition, your decision-making, your impulsivity. So you're going to feel more relaxed, uninhibited. You're going to feel more free. And that's a good feeling, right? A lot of people like that feeling in the moment. What happens after that, of course, is that all of your emotions become more intense. So whatever emotion you might feel in the situation, or you might have been feeling before you started drinking that day, is going to intensify. So if you're, intoxicated and you go through Taco Bell and they're out of the item you want, you might start crying.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, who doesn't love Taco Bell?
Disappointment.
When you're going to Taco Bell, you know that you are going there to have a make me feel better kind of meal, probably. That is one of my guilty pleasures I will share with the Mid-Ohio Valley is Taco Bell.
Oh, yeah, of course. But yeah, they're out of, the cheesy gordita crunch, and there you are crying in the drive-thru because you're intoxicated and you really want, hopefully not driving, being driven by a designated driver.
Please, if you are drinking, do not drive.
Absolutely.
Rachel is not advising you to drive to Taco Bell.
But yeah, so that disappointment is going to intensify. That if you're angry about something, that's going to intensify. If you're irritated, if you're sad, all of those feelings will intensify, and you're going to have these really sharp mood swings from moment to moment. And then, of course, in the long term, if you are a person who drinks frequently or gets drunk frequently, then you're going to experience, that loss of inhibition, a relaxation. And then when you are sober, your brain is going to kind of overcompensate and plummet down the other way into this kind of depression, anxiety, sadness, melancholy, apathy kind of thing. And then, of course, to try to rebalance yourself, a lot of people say, I'm going to drink again, and that's going to rebalance my brain. And then I'm in this cycle of I'm drinking to feel normal. And then when I'm not drinking, I don't feel good. And then so I'm going to drink again to feel better. And then, in that pattern long enough, and that becomes alcoholism. So yeah, it can have a big effect on the brain for sure.
Absolutely. And I want to continue to touch on this topic of alcohol and how it affects us mentally here. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Rachel will give us a lot more great tips when it comes to people that are trying out Dry January. And also we're going to talk about how it affects the mental health side, alcohol still. Stay with us. Welcome back, Mid-Ohio Valley here as we continue on our Mental Health Mondays. Now, Rachel, I want to ask you what are some of the common signs that alcohol, is really negatively impacting our mental health?
So, like I said, if you're in that cycle or that pattern of drinking to feel better or to feel normal, and then you feel really bad when you're sober or when you're not drinking, that would be a sign that it's starting to become a problem, right? If you notice that you can't function well without alcohol, if you're starting to have some of the withdrawal symptoms, which can include depression and anxiety, which can also include physical symptoms, shaking, vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, those kinds of things, when you don't drink, then that's an indication that there's probably a problem. If you find that your first thought when something happens, whether it's celebration or disappointment, is I should have a drink, I need to have a drink, then it's probably starting to become a problem. Of course, the majority of people are able to drink occasionally and leave it alone and don't have an issue. But if you notice that it's something that you have trouble leaving alone, or that you're really craving when you don't have it, or feeling really bad when you don't have it, then that's probably a time to evaluate, like, is this becoming a problem for me?
Absolutely. And I think those are great tidbits of advice for people that may be struggling with alcoholism. Now, I want to talk about, too, alcohol can obviously affect people and their sleeping patterns. Obviously, when you are drinking, probably not getting the best sleep. So how can that affect your mental health and even just like your emotional well-being as well?
Sure. So it almost seems counterintuitive, because I've talked to a lot of people who have trouble with alcohol, and they'll say that's the only way I can sleep is if I drink until I pass out. So it feels like alcohol is helping with sleep. But what it actually does is it disrupts the sleep cycle.
Right.
So REM sleep, which is that good restorative sleep that we need, that's when our body grows, that's when our brain processes and encodes information. That REM sleep is really the gold standard that we're trying to get to when we're sleeping. Alcohol interrupts that and prevents you from getting much of that REM. It's also, if you have any kind of snoring issues or sleep apnea issues, alcohol makes those things worse, because just like it relaxes your inhibitions in the brain, it also relaxes your muscles and things like that, and makes it harder for you to manage your breathing while you're sleeping. So you're going to find that, yes, you might be able to go to sleep easier when you're drinking, but you're not going to get that good restorative sleep, and you'll probably wake up feeling hungover, feeling sick, feeling tired, feeling, unmotivated, unenergetic, and those kinds of things.
Absolutely. So that makes me want to turn my attention to the resources available for people. You're over at Westbrook Health Services. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do over there to help people that struggle with alcoholism and it affects then their mental health or any other portion of their well-being?
Yeah, so we have a lot of services that are geared towards helping people with addiction issues, alcohol or drugs or both. And we do our best to meet people where they are. So I don't want anyone to think that if you're coming to Westbrook, we're going to tell you that you have to quit.
Right.
We're never going to say you have to quit, right? It's your life. It's your decision. We can work with you on what's called harm reduction if you feel like that's appropriate. And so that means if you're drinking problematically, we can help you try to figure out if it's possible to drink less.
Right.
Or to drink at times when it's not problematic. If it's possible for you to have that type of control. And in that process, we may find out it's not possible for you to have that type of control, and you may come to the conclusion that you need to quit altogether. And if that's the decision you've made, that you need to quit and you're ready to do it, we have our crisis stabilization unit where we do medical detox. So we have prescribers who can give medications that will help make those withdrawal symptoms less painful and non-life-threatening, because that's the other part of alcohol withdrawal is there can be seizures and other issues that could be fatal. So we have medications that can help and make sure that you have a safe detox. We have a 28 to 35-day rehab program where people can go and stay for about that month and have therapy and medication services and focus on what they need to do to stay sober. We have residential programs where people can go to live for 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 months and in a sober living environment with staff support, helping you to get a job, to find housing, to resolve legal issues, CPS cases, that kind of stuff. We have folks that will help with all of those needs. We also have peer services, which I think is a really important piece of all of those programs. Our peers are people who are in recovery for at least a year or more. So these are folks that have been through it. They have addiction issues. They've been through the gamut of legal problems, parenting problems, relationship issues, all of that stuff. And they have a unique perspective to be able to help people because they've been through it. So, I don't have that addiction history. I can be helpful in other ways, but there's some things that you can only get from someone who gets it because they've been there. And so we have all of those services available, and you can kind of pick and choose what works for you.
Well, it's great to hear that you guys offer all these services and are doing your part to help people in our community that need that extra help and that extra boost from someone else that maybe isn't just a family member or a friend. But I want to turn our attention now. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. We're talking about alcohol. So let's talk about dry January, abstaining from alcohol. Can you explain to people maybe that might be unfamiliar that are watching right now, what exactly is dry January? And, why has this become maybe such a popular trend for a New Year's resolution too as well?
Well, so Dry January started in 2013 in the United Kingdom as a public health initiative. So the government there put this out as an idea, like, hey, just try it. Try not drinking for a month, just to kind of reset yourself, reset your body, see how you feel.
Probably after your New Year's Eve celebrations, a lot of you in the Mid-Ohio Valley might need that. So
right, after you've gone on the 31st, see how a month off feels. And since 2013, people have kind of took that and ran with it of, something to try and see how it goes. And of course, there's a lot of benefits, which I think is part of why it's picked up.
Right.
So you'll find if you abstain from alcohol for a month that you probably have more energy, a better sleep cycle. You're going to probably see some improvements with your diet, with your exercise, with the way that you interact and socialize with other people, some differences in your relationships, especially if you have people in your life who have wanted you to stop drinking or think that you're drinking too much, those things may improve. And it's also a really nice way to kind of dip your toe in the idea of sobriety. So you don't have to commit to, I'm never going to drink again.
Right.
That's, again, one of those big unattainable goals for a lot of people. It feels huge. But to say I'm going to commit to not drinking for 31 days feels more manageable. And then once you get to the end of January, you might say, well, what about a dry February? This went well. Or maybe a February where I only drink, once or twice a month instead of every weekend or something. And you can kind of assess what the benefits were, and do I want to maintain this sobriety from alcohol, or do I want to go back to drinking however I was before?
No, absolutely. And obviously, too, how can people, maintain those positive changes? Like you just talked about, there could be a lot of positive benefits that you see and you pick up on. What maybe are some tips that you could share that maybe can help people continue those positive habits, as it's not just dry January, it could be the entire year, even if you're not, like you said, one of the tips that you just did share that I liked was maybe just having a couple drinks in February if you're trying to keep it. But do you have any more maybe too?
Right. So building new habits that can take up the time that maybe you were drinking before, starting new hobbies, finding ways to socialize and have fun where alcohol isn't involved.
Right.
So maybe your primary way of having fun used to be going to the bar, and you can find some new things that you can do for fun instead. Like you could go bowling, or you could start a cooking class, or you could pick up a painting or something. Whatever you've always been interested in trying, start filling your time with some of those things and see how you like it. And if you don't like it, then scrap it, try something else. But yeah, I think finding other ways to fill your time, and especially being able to socialize with people who are not drinking, is really a good way to go.
Right. And can you also talk about maybe just some of the long-term, whether it's mental health, physical health, emotional health benefits that people can see from choosing sobriety, whether it's just for the month of January or if they decide to continue on with it?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, you might see some changes with your diet. You might see some weight changes because alcohol has a lot of hidden empty calories that we don't always think about. And especially after we've had a couple and our inhibitions are down, we don't care anymore, right? But you might find that you have a little bit of weight loss. You might find some improvements with your sleep and energy. Liver function is going to improve with less alcohol, of course. And you're going to find that cycle of, I feel really good when I'm drinking, and then I feel really bad when I'm not, so I drink to feel better. That cycle is going to start evening out as your brain is healing itself and learning how to make and release the feel-good chemicals in a more regular pattern without the alcohol.
Right. And so, Rachel, before I let you go here today, we've talked about a long list of things, whether it's New Year's resolutions, whether it's the impact of alcohol on our mental health, physical health, emotional health, and we've talked about dry January, a New Year's resolution that a lot of people, popular trend recently. Is there anything else you'd like to share on any of those topics before I let you go here?
I would just encourage people to not get discouraged, break your goals down, and try to celebrate your little wins. Like it's important to get those pats on the back and rewards for the good work that you do. Even if it's tiny, it's more than what you did before.
Absolutely. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing your wealth of knowledge. As always, it's a pleasure to have you in studio. Absolutely. And can't wait to talk with you next time. I believe we're going to be talking about a new program at Westbrook. It's called the CARE program. And I know you're excited to share about a lot of the great things that are going to come with it. And I am excited to also hear more about it. But that'll do it for us here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, Mid-Ohio Valley, and we appreciate your time. Come back and check out next week, and we'll have a pretty good episode, I think, for you guys. See ya.